I am super excited to welcome Rob to the TURTZED podcast this week. I've worked out with Rob for the last year on my fitness goals and to get a better understanding of my body, which I am so thankful for and so thankful that he's the first guest on the podcast. Remember, TURTZED and the content in this episode represents the opinions of Rob and myself and are presented solely for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes. Neither of us are healthcare or mental health care providers, and we are not licensed or authorized to provide professional medical advice. Nothing in this episode should be relied upon and is not designed to diagnose, prevent, or treat any health or mental health conditions. You should regularly consult your physician and other licensed and qualified healthcare or mental health care providers, and you can check out turtz.com/privacy for more information.
Let's get into it.
All right.
I'm excited.
What we're going to chat about today will be primarily focused on fitness, obviously, with you. But I think what's really also exciting is to hear the backstory. How did you get into it? Why do you do it? What excites you? And then I'll also share my experience working with you. I know you'll also share your experience working with me and how difficult I am and how I push myself harder than I think you do sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think all of that's important. I think sharing it, start to finish. I think there are other people out there that likely do the same thing.
Yeah, and everyone's different. Literally every single person is different. So we'll dive into that when you're ready.
Awesome. So I think just very simply, how'd you get started with fitness?
So in the beginning, it was all about football. I grew up and my whole life was just all around football. I did love football, but there was something that was missing. In high school, I was the star on the team. I got D1 scholarships. I got D1 offers to go to D1 schools. And then I got offered money to go to a Division II school. And then when I went, I just didn't enjoy it like I did in high school. It was just like completely different. It seemed more of a chore than an enjoyable hobby for me at that time. Waking up at 5 a.m. to go run and puke in the morning. Okay, do I love to push myself now to that point? Yeah, that's enjoyable for me. But like I was more excited to go to the lifting part than to actually go to practice and to do the running and all the drills that they had us do.
How did you get into football?
Pretty much where I grew up, it was really big. I grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, but it was really the Poconos, where the Poconos are.
Yep.
So football's really, really big there. I literally started playing football when I can't even remember, maybe like 4 years old. And my father was my coach from the time I was 4 years old to the time I would say I was in ninth grade.
That's when you started
in high school. So I got a new coach. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that
today I would be where I'm at in my life with training if it wasn't for football? Was that the question you were going to say?
That's a good question. So we're going to go with that, but I do have another question on that.
No, I don't know. I don't know where my life would have been if it wasn't for football. What I do for work right now, I feel like I'm not working. I feel like I'm helping people and I have so much fun doing it.
Well, it's interesting that you phrased it that way because I think what I was picking up on was that you kind of got into a sport and clearly excelled at it if you're talking about D1 and D2 schools.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound like there's a passion behind it the way that you have a passion when you talk about training your clients.
Exactly.
And so that's kind of what I was getting at, where understanding that your father was your coach makes a lot of sense now. But I think it's interesting that you did it and continued to do it and you were good at it, but it doesn't necessarily sound like you loved it because the minute it became a choice whether or not you could do it, you were like, yeah, this isn't for me.
Exactly. Like once I got into the college life,
yeah,
and I got paid to play football in college, right?
Yeah.
Like I got paid some of my schooling for college. The second there was partying and alcohol and then football, it was like I rather like it, which just sounds really shitty, was I chose the partying side. My freshman year I was good in college, but then I ended up sucking. And I don't know if that's because I didn't enjoy it as much.
You were full on rebelling.
Or I was rebelling and just going hard and like every weekend was party.
Yeah.
Like what's next party? That's what kind of made the change from enjoying football to not enjoying it anymore.
So when you switched from football to just working out, what was that like for you? What was the initial goal with it? Did you stop playing football and then start working out, or did you shift your workouts while you were playing football?
It's funny you say that because, wow, we're diving in deep right off the bat. Holy shit.
You got to build a backstory so people understand who you are, because then it's going to make sense why you do what you do.
Okay, so when you come out of the closet as gay, right, you have so many insecurities when you're in the closet that you're hiding from the whole world. which I really haven't spoken about ever in my life, I guess. You're hiding two separate parts of you. You know who you are, but the rest of the world doesn't know who you are, right?
Very familiar.
Right? When you come out of the closet, you're like free to be whoever the hell you want, and you have that weight lifted off your shoulder.
Yep.
But then when you get into like this lifestyle, everybody thinks it's fucking rainbows, literally. They think it's all like, it's amazing once you come out. But really, I'm sure you know, jumping into the gay life is not what it seems to be. When I came out, I definitely noticed there was more of a feminine side to me, right? That I held back. That feminine side still comes out. If I go out for a weekend, the fans clapping.
When did you come out? To give context, like how old were you?
I was 20 years old, so
Like maybe
junior year of college.
Okay.
That's when my father stopped helping me with my payments towards my apartments and stuff like that. Not only did I end up sucking at football, I'm like, oh, now I have an excuse not to play football anymore because I have to get another job to be able to afford where I'm living. So I had 2 jobs, one at a furniture place and one at a bar. So that was my junior year.
And so while you were sort of figuring all this out and understanding, not playing football, working out separately, coming out, having what seems like possibly a difficult conversation with your family, this is sort of the transition time where I think you were talking about before, where a lot of people think, okay, you come out, you rip off the Band-Aid, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, and then you just figure it out.
Yeah, so this time it was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Yeah. I think to your point, it takes a while to figure out who you are once you've come out.
Exactly.
And it being bad as an experience for you, that can be unbelievably difficult to understand while you're also trying to understand yourself.
Exactly. Most of my friends were cool with it. Actually, that's such a lie. There was like the girls were cool with it, but the guys, like, no. From college, maybe I have like 4 friends that I still keep in contact with. But when I came out, people stopped talking to me. People start acting weird towards you, right?
And this was also 15 years ago, where it was a different time.
It was a different time, yeah, for sure.
If you were to come out as gay, people, even if they didn't want to treat you differently, sometimes they just didn't know how to treat you or what that experience would be like.
Through life, you take different paths. Okay, you may not have the friends that you used to have back then, but you're going to make new friends. You meet this new community, and then you make new paths. Then, for example, I started my online business in college, and then I made the paths of creating friends with the bodybuilding scene. Not only do I have new friends in this community of the LGBTQ, but I also have this new community of friends in the bodybuilding community too. So it's like, okay, those friends back then, I don't give 2 shits about. But I'm starting to get text messages and stuff and random stuff, like one of them back then, hey, can I start training with you? And I was like, you wanted to move out of my apartment after you found out I was gay, but now you want to train with me? Okay, things change. The life changes. You know what I mean? The path of life changes. And do I hold a grudge against who he used to be? No. It just shows me like where the world is going. It's opening up.
I love that point of view because I mean, I have certainly changed in the last 15 years. I've changed in the last year or 2 years. So I think it's really a mature way of looking at it. Someone who may have hurt you 15 years ago by wanting to move out of the apartment you were living in, and that being a traumatic experience in itself. You being able to accept who you are authentically and understand who you are allows you to look back at that and know that didn't have to do with you necessarily, but rather that person
with them. And exactly.
And they've changed
because hurt people.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
Absolutely. And even though back then it hurt me, like I was fucking, it was fucking horrible. It was so hard for me back then. So hard. It was the most difficult time of my fucking life. Now to see these people doing well, if they were to meet another gay person now, like me, they would be more open to it. You know what I mean? So it's better. It's better. And I'm happy for them, you know? So
how did you get through that difficult time? You're not playing football. You're working multiple jobs. You're in college. You're now starting a different sport, the whole bodybuilding scene. You're coming out. Your relationships are changing. How did you work to process all that?
Okay, so this was the point of where I ended up having to drop out of college, which is actually funny because I still walked the stage, and my whole family thought I graduated.
Whoa, wait, that is incredible. So
Yeah,
you got up
yeah,
there
I
and you
know.
walked
This
across
actually
the
makes me
stage.
sound like an asshole
No, I love
because I
that.
was super
It ha-
embarrassed.
it ha- of course, but like the fact that you pulled that, I'm not surprised that you pulled that off because I know you as a person, and I also understand the motivation behind it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
you wanted to put up the facade that you were finishing it.
yeah. Because I had to get the second job, I ended up failing 2 classes. One being Spanish, which is actually funny nowadays because my partner's from Spain.
So you're picking up the Spanish again.
So I'm trying to, but it's still hard. So still failing at that, but but this was the point where I ended up dropping out of college, and my mom was really the only one that was helping me. And then I got a job in Philly. I was going back and forth to Philly, then I ended up moving to Philly and bartending. My buddy Matt let me stay in his loft. He had a 1 bedroom, but there was a loft at the top, and I had an air mattress up there, and like you couldn't even stand like to get up to the
Well,
loft.
I probably couldn't have stood.
Yeah.
You definitely couldn't have
No,
stood.
yeah, you like literally, if I wanted to go to bed, it was time to just like jump into bed. So I was like, bartend, go out, get drunk, and then go back the next day, bartend, get drunk, and it was just a repeat. So then I was like, I need to get the fuck up and get out.
Yeah.
So stuffed my car with all my shit and drove down to Tampa, moved into a room, and then from there I was like, I need to figure something out. I bartended, I worked at a gym, and when I worked at the gym, COVID happened.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I was like, oh wow, I'm making a lot more money training my clients online. So that's when I decided, okay, we're gonna flip this around. And that's when I just like completely went to online training and quit everything else.
When you moved to Tampa, you took 2 really big risks.
Yeah.
You literally put everything in your car
Mm-hmm.
and moved 2 weeks later, which I can relate to, and I've done it many times.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I mean, at least for me, there are definitely times where everything was just too hard that it was easier to run and hide and just move somewhere else.
Yeah.
And you also took, on sort of the other end of the spectrum, a completely different risk in tossing everything out the window and saying, I'm going to start an online training business.
Mm-hmm.
You obviously had some experience training clients online, but what pushed you to take that risk fully?
I didn't have a choice at that point, right? Like when you don't have anything to lean back on,
Mm-hmm.
you gotta figure something out.
Yeah.
So I had 2 clients, Nick and Derek. They helped me out on the business side of things. Like, so I started my online training. He helped me out. Like, you need an LLC. You need to do this. You need to do that. I started reading books on marketing and created my own marketing plan. And that's what I do now. I don't just train clients. I also teach trainers, personal trainers,
Yep.
how to get out of in-person training into online training, or just people in general. For example, a chef that worked at a restaurant. I was like, dude, you could literally put all of your stuff online and start sending meals out to
Yeah.
people. You kind of want to think outside of the box when it comes to business. And that's what I started doing with my own business, figuring out my marketing plan. And that's when things started working from there.
So when you are looking at it, you're looking back, right? So now you're helping other trainers switch to online.
Mm-hmm.
You're also moving out of fitness into the food world and helping a chef do something very similar.
Yeah.
From that perspective, I think it's very similar to sort of the way that you train your clients, right? You're giving them the tools that you know work and letting them run with it.
When it comes to me and my clients, it's like, okay, you're paying for this service, right? You could either do it because I know what I'm doing.
Yep.
You know, like I don't mean to toot my own horn, but I'm good at what I do, right?
Okay, I can confirm that. You're very good at what you do. You don't have to toot it. I will toot it for him. He's very good at what he does.
No, but and you pay for this service, so it's like if you're not going to do it, if you're not going to check in, for example, if you didn't check in, if you didn't send your photos that week, am I going to call you? No, you didn't send your photos. You didn't do what you needed to do.
You're going to call me out on it.
I'm gonna
call me.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
I'll be like, oh, you didn't upload your photos. You're not getting a phone call this week.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you next week. You know what I mean? It's kind of like if you want to be successful, you're gonna make yourself be successful, and I'm gonna help you along the way because I want you to be successful.
Right.
In life in general, not just in personal training, not just getting your body where you want it. A lot of people think what sick fitness is just how you want your body, how you want your self-image, right? But it's not all about just self-image. It's about self-confidence.
It's my additional 15 minutes of therapy every week.
I just had another client tell me literally today, he's like, this was better than my therapy session with my therapist.
When it really clicked for me was I noticed that in your Instagram posts, it was never actually about you, right? It's not about what you look like. I look like this, you can look like this too. It's about each client and their own transformation.
Yeah.
And I think I saw those over the course of 3 months. And I was like, okay, I've done this before. When I was like 20, I don't know if to say 5, I worked with this bodybuilding trainer. He got me down to like 3% body fat. I used it as a control in my life when everything else felt out of control. And I took it so seriously that getting down to 3% body fat, if you're not actually doing a bodybuilding show,
it's really good. It's good.
I appreciate that. It's also really not healthy.
No, not healthy. Not healthy for your mental either.
No,
not just like your physical. Yeah.
But I needed to prove that I could do something. And so I had that experience, but I was using it as a way to cope with being unhappy everywhere else in my life. But I think what I noticed with all your pictures that you would post, there was progress to your clients. And so when I decided to reach out and say, hey, like, tell me more about this, it was actually more because you were so focused on your clients and not yourself. And here's what I can do. And you could post about your journey. But I think it's so interesting that you actually make it about your clients more than anything else.
Yeah, because that's the best part about my job, right? I want to get the call this week and be like, dude, I'm down 5 pounds. I'm feeling the best I've ever felt in my life. And hearing it from somebody else, because I'm used to just posting it and like being happy about it, you know what I mean? But hearing it from you, actually, it feels good because I never really saw it from outside of the box kind of thing.
Yeah. So I think this is a great place to transition to the business. What does that look like to work with you as an online trainer?
I do the science behind how your body works. I'm going to ask you a bunch of different things. I'm going to ask you your height, weight, age, how active you are. When was the big one? When was the last time you got blood work? Because blood work shows us everything. When you come to me and you come to train with me, it's not like you're going to just get a workout plan and just get a meal plan and then you're going to get an email every week.
No, you change it by the day.
Exactly.
You need to.
Yeah.
So
it could change every single week. It could change every day. But at the same time, I don't want your life to be revolved around it. My life is because I'm obsessed with this. But when you come to work with me, it's more of a science. I figure out how your body metabolizes food, and then I control how your body metabolizes food. But it doesn't mean that you have to give up the rest of your life to be able to get to your goals. When you're working with Stick Fitness, it's not just your body image like we talked about before, but it's just like success all around. I want you to be successful. I want you to be happy, not just with your body image, but like your energy levels. And how do we do that? We do that through metabolic guidance. We do that through your blood work. We make sure everything is healthy overall. Healthy mind, healthy body, everything.
I think one of the biggest takeaways that I have from working with you, I think tracking it in the app is great. I think sending you pictures every week, I can't tell the difference, but I love that you can.
But you have to say,
I'm looking at myself every day. You're seeing him once a week.
But from when like months, like every like 2 to 3 months.
I mean, he literally has to like circle parts of the picture to be like, this is where it changed. So like, this is not, but that's normal. I think. Like, I think everyone struggles to see it.
Yeah, because you see yourself every day.
Yeah,
you see yourself. Like same thing with me. Like my competition. Like when I was in my competition, it was just like I don't see anything.
Yeah.
And then you have your coach be like, look at this, and you're like, I do see that.
Yeah.
Because you look at yourself every single day. But when you compare your pictures from like 5 months ago to this, that's when the big changes are.
For me, the biggest takeaway was food, actually. My understanding of when to eat, but also how much to eat, having to weigh it out myself, measure everything out myself, has actually helped me to better understand what amount of food I need. I can now go out to eat and say, that's a little bit more protein, which is fine, but that is twice the amount of carbs I should eat. I can almost portion it myself. And I think to your point about not letting it take over your life, the first 3 months, I probably texted you every day, all day long, asking you so many questions, and you answered every single one of them. But I think over that time, I now know when I have a cheat meal, I know that I'm going to feel sick because I know I'm eating too many carbs.
Nobody knows your body like you do.
Well,
nobody learns your body the way you do.
Exactly. And I think over the course of the last year, I've tried to share more, live more authentically, get in touch with how I'm feeling both mentally and physically. And I think that you guiding me with the food has been so helpful because my portions were completely off. And that's made the biggest impact for me because I knew I could go to the gym. I knew that I've gone up in weight, I've gone down in weight. I was drinking at one point 3,000 calorie Arnold protein to like try to go from being that never been over 150 pounds skinny kid to like 200 pounds. Didn't do it the right way, gained a lot of fat in the process. But I can look back now and be like, oh, I was just going about it the shortcut versus having the longer view. Like
it's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. And everybody's body works different. That's why it's all a science.
It's not one thing. You look at it holistically because even when I'll go up in weight and I just feel like I'm failing, and your understanding and patience to explain it and say like, don't look at the weight. You don't have to worry about the number. You don't have to worry about the pictures. We're going to go through it together, but let's look at your pictures because this is what I'm looking at. It doesn't matter what the scale says. And you'll also say like, how do your clothes feel? How does your shirt feel? How do your pants feel? I think that approach to it has been so gentle. There are times where I will join the FaceTime for a weekly check-in and I'm like so angry, and it's not at you. It's misdirected at you. I'm mad at myself because I didn't hit the cardio I needed, or I didn't hit the calorie burn I needed. I didn't understand fully what it was. And you never take offense to it. You always are like, is that everything? And then you'll break down everything that I said, re-explain
there was one time I was like, listen, bring it back. Don't be mad at me.
Oh, right? No, of course.
But the thing that a lot of people don't understand is that your body changes as you grow older. So things that could have worked 8 months ago for your shred may not be working now. There's a reason why. We have to figure it out. How do we figure that out? Go get your damn blood work. For example, some people burn fat by having a shit ton of carbs because they use those carbs to be able to burn a lot of fat. But some people,
I wish that was my problem.
The body does some crazy shit, and we have to figure out how yours specifically works. Joe might be the same height, weight, and age as you, but Joe's macros might not work for him, but they might work for you. You know, and that's why.
Talk to me about other people that you've worked with and what that's looked like.
A lot of our clientele is gay men, and that's obviously because I'm in the LGBT community. But we've had women marathon runners. We need to get them down to a certain percent of body fat, right? But then they stay with us for the next year because they're going to do the next marathon the next year, and we want to gain even more muscle on them to have a better time for them next year. Because the more muscle you gain, the faster your time's going to be. You know, no matter what. Other markets in the business are people who are just trying to have the mindset of, you know what, I want to change the way I'm living my life. Let's say, like, for example, you have somebody, they work from home so that you don't really need to wake up at a certain time, or you wake up at 10 o'clock. So I'm telling most of my clients, listen, you need to be up at 6 a.m. if you want to get this done, this done, this done, and this done. You know?
You have to be up at 6 a.m.,
like,
if not earlier,
6
to get it all done in the day.
But at the same time...
But it's worth it. And I say that jokingly, but I will say to you often, I can't possibly fit all of this in together between the food, between the extra cardio, between this, like during different phases. And if I really don't think that I can do it, you will always figure out a way to fit it in.
There's 24 hours in a day.
But I think there's a balance. If you were to come to me and say, like, I don't care what you're saying, figure it out, I definitely would not still be working with you. But I think it's because, I mean, to me, you've never said wake up earlier because I have sleeping problems, so I'm up at 4 anyway.
Because you still need 7 hours of sleep at least.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
But you're taking it from the approach of, let's look at this logically. What is the hardest for you? And a lot of times it was like, we were in a period where the workouts were over an hour, and then you were asking for like 40 minutes of cardio. And I was like, when I hit the 2-hour mark in the gym, I'm done.
We need to do
mentally and physically. But you were able to figure it out with me to make sure that I got everything in, but also did it in a way that still got everything you wanted me to get in too. So I think that's what's interesting as well. The combination of what your agenda is to help me accomplish my goal, but then how far can you push me without breaking me? Jokingly, but truthfully, like,
seriously,
you're able to figure that out.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I've had fathers come to me like, dude, I just had a baby. I want to be able to spend more time with her. I want to be able to go to the park and not be winded with her. You know, I've had somebody say, I carried my kid for like 15 minutes and I feel like I couldn't do it. You know what I mean? So those types of people aren't going to be able to go to the gym for an hour and a half. They want life changes, you know?
100%.
So that's what I mean when I say everybody's plan is different. when you're trying to go into an online training or in-person training or whatever training you're looking to do, you need to find that type of trainer that is willing to actually put in the work for you individually and not just give you what they gave Joe Schmo the other day.
And I think it's interesting because I've recommended people work with you guys and they'll say like, did you do this in your first week? And I'm like, no. And they're like, oh, did you ever do this? I'm like, no. They truly are different programs. If there's someone sitting at home right now who's been thinking about their fitness, whatever their goals are, they know what they are, and they're sitting on the sidelines right now, what would you say to them to motivate them to take the first step, which I think is just having a conversation with you or your team to understand more? What would be that motivating factor?
The first thing you have to do is reach out. You know what I mean? That's the first thing you have to do is make that first step of reaching out. But if you don't feel comfortable in reaching out to a personal trainer in general or a life coach in general, do your own research. If you want to change, you're going to do the things you need to do to change, whether that's hire somebody or whether that's doing your own research.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because I think, I mean, for me with the podcast or coaching and consulting, for you with fitness, I wanted to do something. I did a lot of research first myself. And I think that's a great message because I think a lot of times people, there's always a reason why, oh, I'm going to wait until the summer, or I'm going to wait until after this trip, or I'm going to wait till work settles down. And you just keep kicking the can down the road and it doesn't change. Obviously, having a conversation with you or anyone about just your goal to put it into perspective is helpful. But I actually love that. Do a little bit of research.
Exactly. Like, when you wanted to do a podcast, you probably thought of two different things in your mind. Who does a podcast that I could reach out to that could help me with it? Or let me sit at the computer and do my own research to figure out how I'm going to make my podcast successful. Or enjoy it, and not just make it successful, enjoy it while making it successful.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean?
100%. All right, I have one final question for you. It doesn't have to do with fitness. It's just a general question.
Oh, I'm nervous. Go ahead.
What is something that someone said to you throughout your life that you'll never forget, and why?
Okay. This is a good one. So I did see this TikTok one time. The guy went up to a random person on the street and was like, I have $5 million. Do you want it? And the guy said, yeah. And he goes, there's only one thing though. You won't wake up tomorrow. So do you still want the $5 million? And the guy was like, no. And he said, okay, well, that means tomorrow is worth $5 million. So why not wake up earlier? Get the most out of the day. Get as much as you possibly can done.
Yeah.
You know, so that's something I will never forget.
Well, I want to thank you for being super open with everything and sharing. And this was more than I could have imagined in the first interview. And I'm so thankful that you did it with me.
Yeah, me too. Honestly, I had so much fun. I've honestly never opened up like this in a long time. So it feels good. And I appreciate you having me on as your first guest. I'm your first guest?
Yeah.
Oh, I feel honored. Thank you. Thank you. I had so much fun.
Thank you, Rob, for joining us and opening up so much today. Honestly, guys, his fitness and coaching has made such a huge impact in my life. And if you're thinking about making a change, check out his Instagram at sickfitness_ on Instagram, or his website, sick-fitness.com, to see if something inspires you or resonates. And if it does, reach out for an initial consultation. If you're willing to put in the work, he will match you 100%.